Madison Clark had survived worse than a flat tire on a rural Colorado road, but not with a dying phone, a stalled Mercedes, and a noon presentation in Denver that could change her entire career. She stepped out of the car, the sharp mountain wind slicing across her blazer as her heels sank slightly into the dirt. Her breath fogged the air. "Perfect," she muttered. "Just perfect." A voice came from the ground beside her tire. "You probably don't even know how to read the manual of this thing." Madison jerked toward the sound. A tall man crouched next to the wheel, jeans dusty, curls tousled by the wind, hands surprisingly steady for someone dressed like he worked the fields. His brown eyes lifted to hers, calm, annoyingly calm. "I can try," he said with a small, polite smile. "If you'll allow me, ma'am." "Ma'am," the word hit her like a slap. She was 32, not ancient, and hearing ma'am from a guy who looked like he lived off black coffee and hard work felt like mockery. "It's fine," she said sharply. "I've already called for a tow truck." Her phone buzzed. Battery, 5%. The man rose to his full height, easily 10 inches taller than her, even with the pumps she insisted on wearing, and wiped his hands on his jeans. "Tow truck won't get here for 3 hours," he said. "This road's pretty far out." She narrowed her eyes. "How would you know that?" He nodded toward the hills. "I live nearby." Of course he did. Madison pictured a tiny farmhouse peeling paint, early mornings, long hours, and a life she had spent her entire childhood trying to escape. That kind of life clung to you, shaped you, trapped you. "Well," she said with icy politeness, "then you can head home. I'll wait." He didn't move, just tilted his head and observed her. The blazer, the heels, the anxiety she desperately tried to hide, with an expression too gentle for a stranger. "You've got somewhere important to be," he said softly. Madison checked the time, 10:40 a.m. Her presentation at Vision Tech Labs, the biggest tech firm in the region, was at noon. Her stomach twisted. "It's none of your business." "No," he agreed. "But if you want, I can look at the engine, for free." Free, she hated the word, hated how it implied she needed help. Scraps. Still, her phone died with a soft little chirp. Her breath hitched. No phone, no Jeeps, no way to call her agency, no way to fix the car. And she was alone with a stranger on a dirt road in the middle of nowhere. "You okay?" His voice softened even more. Too genuine, too kind. It irritated her. "I'm great," she snapped. But he had already popped the hood open without asking. Madison opened her mouth to yell, but the words lodged in her throat. He leaned over the engine, his fingers moving with a reprising familiarity, strong, calloused hands touching each part like he knew exactly what belonged where. "Fuel pump, maybe," he murmured. "Could be the relay. Either way, this won't run without specialized help." The world tilted sideways. 5 years. 5 years clawing her way into an industry full of people who wore Italian suits and had last names that opened doors. 5 years proving the daughter of a motel housekeeper from Fresno could sit at the same table as executives from Beverly Hills. And now it was all slipping because of a stupid broken car. "I can drive you to Denver," he said suddenly. Madison blinked. "Drive me?" She looked toward the pickup truck parked a few feet away, a faded blue Chevy with a dented bumper and mismatched side mirror. "In that?" she blurted. He laughed softly. "It's not luxury, but it moves." The laugh scraped at her nerves. She shook her head. "No, absolutely not." "Then you'll miss your meeting." The worst part was he didn't say it cruelly, just a fact. She hated that it was true. Madison swallowed hard. "Do you want money? Is that it?" His expression shifted, a quick flicker of disappointment. "No," he said quietly. "I want to help. But if you prefer to stay." He turned to walk back to his truck. The sun hit his back, catching the sweat-darkened fabric of his blue flannel. Madison's heart pounded, panic rising. She imagined her boss, Richard Coleman, her team, the Vision Tech executives waiting for her one shot at becoming director. "Wait," she whispered. The word came out small. He stopped, glanced back. "How long to Denver?" 40 minutes, he replied, "if traffic's good." Madison looked at her dead phone, at the empty road, at the car that betrayed her, at the stranger waiting with patient brown eyes. She exhaled. "Fine," she said quietly. "I'll take the ride." He nodded, no triumph, no smirk, just that same irritating calm. Let's go. Time's tight. He opened the passenger door for her, a small gesture, but it hit deeper than it should. No one had opened a door for her in years. The inside of the truck wasn't dirty like she expected. It smelled like earth and pine and something warm she couldn't place. He climbed in, turned the ignition. The engine rumbled too loud. So, he said as the truck rolled down the road, "What company in Denver?" "Vision Tech Labs," she said stiffly. "You probably haven't heard of..." He smiled faintly, eyes on the road. "I've heard of them." Madison gripped the handle above the door, every bump jolting her. She kept her eyes forward, refusing to let him see how scared she was, of missing the meeting, of failing, of needing help from a stranger. After several minutes, he asked gently, "What's your name?" She hesitated. "Madison?" "Pretty name," he said. "I'm Daniel. Daniel Hayes." Daniel, a simple name, a simple man. Yet the way he spoke, steady, grounded, made something flutter in her chest against her will. She shoved the feeling away. "So, Daniel," she said, trying to sound cold, "you always pick up stranded women on the roadside?" He chuckled. "Only the ones who look like they're about to pass out from stress." She glared at him, but the corner of her mouth twitched. The truck hit the asphalt. Madison exhaled slowly. He glanced at her again. "You seem determined, like this meeting means a lot." "It's everything," she said before she could stop herself. His voice was soft. "Then let's get you there." For the first time that morning, Madison allowed herself to believe she still had a chance. She watched Daniel drive, focused, steady hands gripping the wheel, sunlight hitting his jawline, and something in her chest shifted. Curiosity. Dangerous curiosity. And she didn't know then that the man driving her wasn't who she thought he was. Not even close. And when the truth came out, it would break her world wide open. The boxy downtown skyline of Denver grew larger through the dusty windshield as Daniel's pickup sped down the highway. Madison tried to focus on the road ahead, but her eyes kept drifting toward him. Every few seconds, something about him pulled her attention. The way he navigated traffic with absolute confidence. The way his jaw tightened when she sighed with worry. The way he seemed so quietly observant, noticing things she didn't say aloud. She wasn't used to being seen. "So," Daniel said after a long stretch of silence, "you're headed to Vision Tech Labs. That's a big place. Do you work for them?" "No," Madison kept her voice crisp. "I'm presenting a pitch to them. My agency's competing for their annual contract." "You sound nervous." "I'm not nervous," she lied. He chuckled softly, not buying it. "What does your agency do?" he asked. "Marketing, digital strategy," she said. "We build brand narratives for tech companies." Daniel nodded slowly, eyes still on the road. "Vision Tech is strict about numbers. They're big on real-world data. Their executives hate fluff." Madison frowned. "How do you know that?" He paused. "I read a lot." "Read a lot?" The way he said it felt too casual, too practiced. She stared at him, confused. His clothes said farm boy. His vocabulary said something else entirely. "You read Vision Tech's reports?" she pressed. "Sometimes," he said lightly. "Tech changes everything. Even in rural areas, you kind of have to keep up." She wanted to roll her eyes, but deep down she felt something shift. Most people she dated couldn't describe the difference between AI and email spam. This man, with his dusty jeans and sun-browned skin, spoke about the tech world like he lived inside it. They hit Denver traffic at 11:45. Madison's chest tightened. "I'm not going to make it." "You'll make it," Daniel said calmly, switching lanes with practiced precision. "Just breathe." It was ridiculous that a stranger's voice could steady her. Ridiculous that every time he spoke, her heart reacted before her brain did. At 11:59, Daniel turned into the first parking area near Vision Tech's campus, a sharp white building of glass and metal, rising like a monument to ambition. Madison grabbed her folder and jumped out before the truck fully stopped. "Thank you," she said breathlessly. "I mean it." "Madison," he called as she started running. She turned. His brown eyes were an anchor in a storm. "You're going to crush it." She didn't know why she believed him, but she did. She sprinted into the building, heels clacking against marble, hair clinging to her cheeks. The agency receptionist answered. Richard Coleman's office. It's me, Madison, she gasped. Tell him I'm here. A pause. They already left. The Vision Tech team waited as long as they could. Her stomach dropped. She dialed again, then her phone died completely. Empty, black, useless. Her chance was gone. She walked outside in a blur, unable to breathe. The edges of the world felt too sharp, too bright. A failure. That ugly word crawled into her throat. She had spent her childhood hearing that word whispered behind her mother's back. Now she was hearing it in her own head. Madison? Daniel's voice came from behind her. She turned around and for a second hated how relieved she felt of just seeing him there. His expression shifted the second he saw her face. I missed it, she said. They're gone. Everything I worked for. It's gone. Daniel stepped closer, but not too close. Just enough to be there. Madison, listen. One meeting doesn't erase who you are. You don't understand, she said, voice cracking. In my industry, one mistake is enough. One. She couldn't finish. Her throat tightened painfully. She looked away, ashamed to let him see her cry. But Daniel didn't look away, didn't flinch. His voice stayed steady, warm, grounding. Come on, sit with me. He guided her to a bench by the street, keeping a careful, respectful distance. She collapsed onto it, covering her face with her hands. You worked 5 years for this, didn't you? He said softly. She nodded, unable to speak. And is this the first time something went wrong? Madison hesitated. No. Then they know you're reliable, he said. A car problem doesn't erase that. She let out a broken laugh. You don't understand the world I come from. They judge you for everything. Your clothes, your mother's job. They will think I'm unprofessional. Daniel was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his tone was deeper. I know about cruel worlds. And I know there are people who judge by material things, but there are also people who don't. She looked up. Yeah, who? He hesitated, something heavy flickering in his eyes. But then he reached for his phone and typed quickly. What are you doing? She asked. Helping you, he said simply. You need to email your boss, now. She stared at him. You have a phone? He raised an eyebrow. Yes, Madison, I have a phone. She didn't know why she had assumed he didn't. Maybe because everything about him contradicted itself in ways that made no sense. He handed the phone to her. On the screen was a draft email, simple, concise, perfectly worded. She blinked. The tone was professional, assertive, polished, like someone who had handled high-level damage control before. You wrote this? She whispered. Just a suggestion, he said. It needs your voice. She made slight adjustments, added her login, and pressed send. Minutes later, the phone pinged. Richard's reply. Understood. Meeting rescheduled for tomorrow at 2 p.m. Do not disappoint. Madison covered her mouth, a sob of relief breaking free. He rescheduled. Oh my God, he rescheduled. Daniel leaned back, eyes closed for a moment, as if he felt her relief inside his own chest. When he opened them again, he looked at her with something gentle, something warm. Told you it would work. She exhaled shakily. Daniel, you just saved my career. He shook his head. No, you saved it. I just nudged the email. She stared at him. Everything about him was wrong. A simple farm boy shouldn't be this articulate. Shouldn't know corporate language. Shouldn't read Vision Tech reports. Shouldn't know how to calm a woman whose life felt like it was falling apart. Nothing about him made sense, and yet, sitting beside him felt like the safest place in the world. Let me take you to dinner, she said suddenly. His eyebrows lifted. Dinner? You canceled your whole afternoon for me. Let me thank you. He hesitated. I don't want money. I'm not offering money, she said quietly. I just want to have dinner with you. Daniel studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. All right, but somewhere simple. Simple. The word that once irritated her now felt disarming. They went to a small, family-run place on a side street, wooden tables, warm lights, garlic in the air. When Daniel pulled out her chair, something inside her cracked open. No man had bothered to do that in years. Conversation flowed easily. too easily. He asked questions that mattered. He listened, really listened. And when she talked about feeling like an imposter, he didn't dismiss her insecurities. He understood them. At one point, she realized she was smiling so much her cheeks hurt. And when he walked her out under the cold evening air, she realized something else. She didn't want the night to end. "Daniel," she said softly, "who are you, really?" He froze just for a heartbeat, almost imperceptible, but enough. His eyes shifted, something flickered, something that felt like a secret sitting behind his ribs. "I'll tell you," he murmured, "soon." Madison didn't know why, but her heart stuttered, as if a storm was coming, as if the ground beneath them wasn't as solid as she wanted to believe. But she nodded anyway, because in that moment she trusted him, maybe too much. Madison woke up the next morning with her heart pounding in a rhythm that wasn't entirely fear, but not entirely excitement either. She couldn't stop replaying dinner with Daniel. The warmth in his voice, the steadiness in his eyes, the way he spoke as if he understood the parts of her she kept hidden from everyone else. Yet something inside her whispered a warning. He had said he would tell her the truth soon. Soon should have come already. She pushed the thought away. She had a presentation to deliver, and this time she would not be late. At Vision Tech's gleaming headquarters, she stepped into the boardroom with confidence she didn't feel but forced herself to show. Richard Coleman stood at the front of the room, his expression unreadable. "You're on time," he said coldly. "Good." She nodded and walked to the screen. Her hands trembled slightly as she began her pitch. She expected to stutter, to lose her rhythm, but the moment she started speaking, something clicked. Her mind sharpened, her voice steadied, her slides flowed with clarity. She was halfway through the presentation when the doors opened. Madison didn't turn. She didn't dare break her focus, but she felt the air shift. The executive straightened, whispered. Something heavy and electric filled the room. A man stepped forward and took one of the empty seats at the center of the table. She continued talking, but her throat tightened, instinct raising alarms she didn't yet understand. When she finally finished, the room was silent. Richard cleared his throat. "Thank you, Madison. Now we'll hear from me," a familiar voice said, calm, controlled, heart-destroying. Madison froze. She turned, and the world split clean down the middle. Sitting at the table in a charcoal suit tailored so perfectly it looked carved into his frame was Daniel Hayes, her Daniel, her roadside stranger, her dinner companion, her rescuer. But the man in front of her was someone else entirely. Richard Coleman stood. "Everyone, this is Daniel Hayes, CEO of Vision Tech Labs." Her heartbeat crashed against her ribs. "CEO?" She whispered the word like it hurt to say it. Daniel's eyes locked with hers, an apology already buried inside them. "Madison, I wanted to explain before this. I didn't want you to find out here." Her pulse roared in her ears. She felt humiliated, exposed, stupid. The room spun as the pieces slammed together. His strange knowledge, the perfectly worded email, the way he navigated panic like a man who had lived his life in high-stakes rooms. He wasn't a farm boy. He wasn't ordinary. He wasn't stranded on that road by coincidence. He was the very man she had spent 5 years trying to impress. "You lied to me," she said, voice trembling. "Everything you said, everything you did." "I never lied about what mattered," he said, standing. "I didn't plan to meet you that day. I didn't plan any of this. But when I saw who you were, the way you kept going, the way you refused to quit, Madison, I wanted to know you without the title in the way." She shook her head, trying to contain the sting behind her eyes. "You let me believe you were someone else. You let me open up to you." His voice cracked. "I opened up to you too." "Not enough," she said. Executives exchanged looks, uncomfortable but riveted, because this wasn't a business meeting anymore. This was a collision. Richard finally stepped forward. "Madison, we need a private moment. Miss Hayes?" But Daniel didn't look away from her. Not once. "Your idea," he said softly, "is brilliant. Your pitch is the strongest we've seen, and I want your agency to run the campaign." She felt numb. She should have felt triumphant. Instead, she felt broken. "No," she whispered, "not if you're giving it out of guilt or pity." "You think I pity you?" Daniel's voice hardened, not with anger, but with hurt. You think I'd risk a multi-million-dollar campaign because of my feelings? His feelings. The words scraped against her ribs. I'm approving your pitch, he said firmly, because it's extraordinary. Because you are extraordinary. Everything else we can talk about when you're ready. When she didn't respond, he stepped back, nodding once. Then he walked out of the boardroom, leaving silence in his wake. Richard exhaled sharply. Well, that was something. Madison couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't think past the ache in her chest. She had gone from stranded on a dirt road to falling for a stranger, to learning he was the one man she should never have trusted. She left the building without speaking to anyone. The cold air hit her face, snapping the world into focus. Denver blurred around her as she walked aimlessly, hurt pouring through her like stormwater. She didn't know how long she wandered until she found herself on a quiet overlook above the city. She pressed her palms against the railing, letting the wind sting her skin. Footsteps approached. She didn't turn. Don't, she said, voice barely audible. Please, Daniel, just don't. He stood beside her anyway, keeping enough distance that she could walk away if she wanted. I never meant to deceive you, he said quietly. I meant to tell you at dinner, but you look so happy. I hadn't seen you smile like that all day. I didn't want to ruin it. You still ruined it, she whispered. I know. They stood in silence, the city glimmering far below. I grew up poor, Madison said suddenly. Everything I have, I fought for. And you, her voice cracked. You had all the power, all the control. Daniel's voice was raw. I wasn't using power. I was trying to be someone you could talk to without fear. She turned finally, tears burning her eyes. But I didn't want someone pretending. I wanted someone honest. Daniel swallowed hard, pain flickering across his face. Then let me be honest now. I fell for you the second you argued with me on that road. You don't back down from anything. You don't bend for anyone. That's what I wanted you to see in yourself. Her breath trembled. And if this is the end, he whispered, I'll accept it, but I hope it isn't. She looked at him, really looked. The CEO, the stranger, the man who fixed her car, gave her a ride, made her laugh when her life felt like it was burning down. The man who lied, the man who cared. Both truths lived inside him, and for the first time since the shock shattered her, she allowed herself to feel the real truth inside her chest. She still loved him. Madison stepped closer, closing the distance between them. If we try again, she said softly, it has to be real. No secrets, no masks, just us. Daniel nodded, hope breaking through the pain. Just us. She placed her hand on his chest, his heart hammered beneath her palm. Then I'm willing to try. He exhaled shakily, relief flooding his features. Madison. Before he could finish, she leaned in and kissed him, gentle, trembling, full of everything she thought she'd lost. He kissed her back with the kind of sincerity that didn't need words. They stood together above the city, two people remade by truth, hurt, humbled, but finally whole. Their story had begun on a broken road. It continued now on steadier ground, because this time they were walking it together. And now I want to hear from you. Do you think Madison made the right choice giving Daniel another chance? Do you believe their story could last now that all secrets are gone? If this ending made you feel something, comment the number 100 below and tell me which country you are watching from. And don't forget to share the story if it touched your heart.